Nick Roush of Kentucky Sports Radio, now joined by Rusty Mansell, Dawgs HQ on 3. If you aren't following Rusty, he's tapped into everything that's happening down in Georgia. He's been covering the Dogs for a long time, and that includes covering the recruiting trail when Brock Vandagriff was a star recruit from just outside of Athens. So, Rusty, I appreciate you joining us today to tell us a little bit about the quarterback that's in the portal now. You were the first one to report it. And before we go back and kind of ask you about how his game, you know, that was a really big competition between Brock and Carson Beck in the spring. So how did things kind of unfold there? Did he have a legit shot to win that job? And why ultimately did Carson Beck get the reins?
So let's go back 1 year from now. Let's go back a year ago to basically this week. His dad coaches at Prince Avenue Christian, and they were playing in the state championship. Well, all of a sudden, these rumors start popping up that Brock Vandagriff is leaving. And I understand the nature of it. And I saw Brock on the sideline. I wasn't going to talk to him about that. Watching his dad play, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Mr. Mansell, what's where these rumors coming from?" I said, "I don't know. You tell me." And he goes, "Look, I'm not leaving." He goes, I'm here. Stetson's gone. I'm not walking out of Georgia without taking a chance at this job, and I'm gonna get my degree. I said, "Okay." I put it out. So that was the end of it. So he goes into the spring, and that job is clearly probably Carson Beck has a little bit of a leg up, but it's not done yet. It's not done. They go through the scrimmage. I think Carson Beck had a really good G-Day spring game. And kind of in the offseason, is a new offense coordinator too, so he felt like he was starting fresh with Mike Bobo. He had a clean slate there, and he's known Mike Bobo a while. So Brock goes through the summer workouts. They have a couple of important fall scrimmages, and that's where Carson Beck kind of separated himself with those camp scrimmages. He had a couple of really good camp scrimmages, and I'm not saying that Brock didn't have good ones. It just Carson just kind of put on a show in a couple of them, and sooner or later you got to pick one. And Georgia went with Carson Beck. And I think at any point in the year, had something happened with Carson Beck, I feel like they think they could have won every game with Brock Vandagriff.
Right.
But you see the year Carson Beck had, it just kind of carried that momentum over from those fall scrimmages and won that job.
Now, to go back to his high school days, was the number 21 player in the 1-3 industry rankings, a 5-star talent. You could probably hit a rock, I think, if you had an arm like Vandagriff's to hit Sanford Stadium. So I know the concerns I've seen from some is like, well, he only played, small school Christian, private school football. Are those concerns valid, or is he as good as advertised?
I wouldn't worry about that. I don't think too many people are saying Trevor Lawrence played lower classification football in Georgia. You think anybody's worried that he played 3A and not 7A? Here's the thing. It's funny, and I won't show the picture because Brock would kill me. But the first time I ever met Brock Vandagriff, he was in the 7th grade. And the reason I met him, I was there to see Max Johnson. And Max Johnson was over there. His brother, Jake Johnson, I believe, was in the 8th grade at the time. So I went to see Brad Johnson. He was like, "Hey, let me introduce you to this 7th grade quarterback we got. This is the coach's son." So I go over and shake this little redheaded kid's hand, "Hey, how you doing?" And he's got his backpack on. And that's really the first time I'd met Brock Vandagriff. So I've known him for a long time. I got a picture one day. I'll post it. He'll kill me. But I'll take that one. But I've known him and that family for a long time. And when he committed to Oklahoma, it was one of those deals. And I think, the Lincoln Riley, he was hot, man. That was a spot. And Oklahoma went all in on him. Like, we're not taking anybody else. We're taking you. And I think when he thought about the further away from home he was going to be, and he told me he went to a Thanksgiving dinner one night and his grandmother said, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to come see you play." That was it. That was a wrap. He started thinking about, man, my grandmother's not coming to see me. I'm going to Georgia. And he flipped, basically because of that. And, I don't have the concerns of him checking boxes, because the first thing you'll notice if you ever see him in person is a big ass kid. He's 6'3", legit. He's got a freaking live arm. He is mobile. He is put together. What Brock Vandagriff lacks is why he's leaving Georgia, and that is live snaps. And that's point blank. I was told he had a very good conversation with Kirby Smart yesterday. I would imagine if you had Kirby Smart on here, he would tell you everything you'd want to hear about a kid like Brock Vandagriff. He just didn't win the job, and that's just part of it. and he's going somewhere to get some live snaps. That's what he needs. He needs live snaps. He has 2 years wherever he ends up. So, people write him off, and people probably wrote Michael Penix off when he left Indiana. Like, this guy can't do it. Well, guess what he did? He did it. Bo Nix certainly got written off at Auburn. And, change sometimes is good for everyone. And I certainly understand why Brock Vandagriff is making this decision to leave, and he's going to go somewhere to get a fresh start.
You've talked a little bit about, kind of him on a personal level. You cover recruiting in the state of Georgia better than anybody out there. So you know these guys. So what is it about the Brock and his family in general too that
Let me tell
people
you
from the outside need to know?
Well, you have to have that kind of and I call it a switch. And Brock be pissed at me saying this, but his sister's the best athlete in the family, and she's committed to Alabama in softball. She, by the way, she just won the 100 in state, and she won the 200. And
Wow.
I'll tell you, she's an athlete. She's an athlete. He's a coach's kid. His mom was, I think, a collegiate athlete. So all those things that you want, if you got your quarterback there, you want the athletic, but you want the, he understands it because his dad's a football coach. He's grown up around it. This isn't a kid that's out on town drinking. He's not doing that stuff. You know what he does in his off season? He hunts. I mean, this guy is in the freaking woods. I remember going up to the school one time in high school, and it's a Christian school now, and you go up there, and he'd had a fresh kill at some point in the back of his truck that weekend because there was still some, he needed to go through the car wash at some point. You know what I mean? So that's what he is. He's kind of the good old boy, that can play football, and great kid, man. You're not gonna be any concern. Not going out of town. He's not gonna, cause any problems off the field. He's there. He's very religious young man. And he's talks about his faith on his social media and stuff like that. So again, listen, Nick, I can't sit here and say enough. The dude checks boxes. He needs live snaps.
One more thing about the football before we let you go, Rusty. We really appreciate you joining us. He did, for being a backup, I mean, Georgia wins a lot of games by a lot of points. Kentucky fans saw him between the hedges for a little bit. When he was in the game, it felt like they ran the offense as usual. So in his few limited live snaps, what kind of did you see that was good, and maybe a little bit that he'd have to work on?
Well, the problem with when you see him, if it wasn't in a situation to where, like they were way out ahead when he would play, but when you would watch him in spring games and stuff like that, obviously he was pressing because he was trying to gain ground. You know what I mean? He was trying to win that job. So, he's never walked in a building on a Monday as a quarterback and you're staring down an SEC game on Saturday knowing I'm the guy. You know what I mean? This is my team. I'm here. I'm just preparing for this team, not looking over my shoulder. So there's a lot of that variable to him. But the one thing, man, he's won. And we put his I think it was a quarterfinal game his senior year. This team had won 5 state championships in a row. The team he was playing, and man, he carved them up. And he has that kind of stuff about him. So I truly think that Brock, wherever he ends up, and I certainly think Kentucky is a real threat here. I'm not saying it's a done deal, but I think Kentucky's a real threat in this thing. Wherever he ends up, I'm very fascinated from just say August of this year and where he will be in 2 years from now when he leaves college, because there's a lot of ceiling left in this kid. I mean, there's a ton of ceiling left. And, that's why his phone, I can't even imagine. I left him alone last night. I can't even imagine who was trying to get in touch with him. Because they're just, he's got an arm and he's big and he's athletic. He just needs to sit in the huddle and be the guy for a while and see how he reacts.
Well, Rusty, this has been awesome. If y'all aren't following Rusty's work on Dawgs HQ, what are you doing? Get on it right now. I know you've got to run, but you mentioned some big names, and I'm not used to that in the state of Kentucky. You mentioned Trevor Lawrence and some of those. So you've been doing this a long time. Of all the dudes you've covered, is there like 2 or 3 where you still can't believe what you saw on a high school football field in the state of Georgia?
Well, I got 2 jerseys to hang in my office, and if you had to bet $1 million, you'd probably lose both. You'd probably lose a bet. I've got Alvin Kamara's Saints jersey, and I got Trevor Lawrence's All-American jersey. And both of those young men gave them to me as, just thank yous for covering them. And, the first time Trevor Lawrence was the first eighth grader I ever mentioned. I just had this thing about I was not going to get into the middle school stuff.
Yeah.
I just didn't do it because
It's middle school. I mean,
it's
come
middle
on.
school.
A lot can happen. Yeah.
It's middle school, and people will hit me up all the time. Well, hey, my son is super prep, all American, eighth grader. I'm like, congratulations, and print and keep that. But I'll let you know when he's junior where he is in my world. But I remember going to see Trevor Lawrence. He came to a camp of mine in May of his eighth grade year, and I'd heard his name. He's only 20 minutes from my hometown. I'd heard his name, and didn't really say much about it. He comes in, he throws, and I remember the high school kids standing there going, "Who in the hell is that?" Because he made every throw. I'll tell you how long ago it was. Trevor Lawrence had a flat top, and trust me, he has death threatened me if I ever post that picture again on social media. So he will come get his All-American jersey out of my office. But he was 6'2", he was 177 pounds, and he made every single throw that day. And I knew right then, I was like, this kid is different. And I'd never seen anything like that at that age. And he was very calm. But I remember the high schoolers going, whoa, like, who is that guy? And he didn't miss a throw that day. He did not miss a throw. And I kind of knew when I left that day, like, this one's different. And I'll tell you, the outside of there, I covered Derrick Henry because he was committed to Georgia for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down to watch him work out in Yulee, Florida. He was a sophomore in high school, probably had 40 offers at that point. The guy pulls up to the school because it was a planning day or whatever there. And I was in that area. So I came by, and the coach said, "Hey, we'll meet you over there. He's going to work out. You can watch him work out and get an interview." I said, "Okay." This little truck pulls up, and it's like a Chevy S10. And I'm like, there's no way that's him. So I'm standing there talking to the coach, and the truck pulls up, and he gets out of this thing, and how he ever fed in it, I don't know. He unfolded like he was in that thing like a pretzel. And I knew right then, I said, not only is this dude an athlete, he's freaky, he can bend, because to drive that truck, I was thinking, oh my goodness. Now 2 years later, I saw him. He had a brand new Tahoe, so he was good.
Yeah.
But
I like that. He shows bend in the scouting report, can fit in an S10.
I'm telling you, it was the most impressive damn thing. I've been all over the world, and to see Derrick Henry fold out of a Chevy S10 to get up, I was like, oh my God, this kid's freaky. And to be a sophomore, that was one of the wildest things I've ever seen. Now I will say this, I was wrong. I said there's no way that guy's playing running back. He's got to play linebacker. and guess what? I was wrong.
We can't hit them all. But Rusty, This has been a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, follow Rusty Mansell wherever you're following anything and everything. He's the best in the business. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Nick.